Well, Nevada is a long ways from New Hampshire, but it's a very similar situation here. What we see is that the race is coming right down to the wire. Hassan and her supporters have spent about $50 million, and Bolduc is about $1 million. So you see a 50-to-1 margin, yet the polling really hasn't shown, except one poll, has not shown Hassan over 50%. And so what she has is sort of a toxic environment because of the economy and other factors. And you're not seeing Biden in New Hampshire either campaigning for her. You're seeing her trying to take these pocketbook issues away from the Republicans and motivate her base with the abortion issue.
Then, Christopher, in North Carolina, you have Democratic candidate Cheri Beasley running against GOP Congressman Ted Budd. Where does that race stand? And how much do the dynamics mirror what we're hearing out of New Hampshire, out of Nevada?
I think they very much mirror the same thing, right? This is a big nationalized political environment. We're seeing it in Nevada. We're seeing it in New Hampshire. We're seeing it right here in North Carolina. So, look, I think Ted Budd is the favorite right now, but he's a very narrow favorite. So for about the last 4 months, we had a number of polls that were neck and neck, neck and neck, neck and neck. And then finally, in the last couple of weeks, we've seen a couple where Budd does have a real edge. I think the big national dynamics, abortion versus inflation, Biden versus Trump, seeing the same thing play out here in this state that was just described as by the head of the GOP as a true purple state.
Again, I think it is so interesting because I think you're basically at this point, you enter a point where some of the party infrastructure and the campaign infrastructure, they know that there are voters who are tuning in now, who are not the nerds we are, who have been following it for the last 6 months. And there are certain voters who show up and they say, who's winning? Who's going to be the winner here? And they go with that energy. So it now actually benefits campaigns to sort of have that message out there that they are the ones, that they are the winners. Christopher, we've seen a surge of new voter registration, particularly among women, Democrats following the role reversal. Your sense of the impact that's going to have?
We really haven't seen that in North Carolina. So in states like Ohio, absolutely, we saw a large number of women registered to vote just after Dobbs. Our voter registrations in North Carolina in terms of party and gender have actually remained fairly constant over time. We've actually already had 360 some odd thousand votes already cast in our state. So you might look for some sort of a gender effect here. Maybe we're seeing kind of a pop in female voter turnout. We're not seeing that, at least as of yet. Clearly, that's good news for Budd, bad news for Beasley.
And Neil, your sense of how that's playing out in New Hampshire?
We've seen the abortion issue go from about 12% people believing it's their number one issue to 22. So it has really expanded. And presumably this will help the Democrats. Obviously, if you take something away, it motivates voters. And so Democrats are really working on this because they are a little demoralized. The president's numbers are down, and we see about 70% of people believe the country's on the wrong track. So Democrats really need to sort of get that women vote and potentially the abortion vote to the polls. And I think they're trying to motivate that group of people to do so. We'll see what happens and whether or not that overcomes some other issues such as inflation, which are also registering the highest right now in New Hampshire.
Right. Again, to sort of loop back to a point we've been making throughout the show, a lot of this comes down to how you are modeling this electorate, who you think is actually going to show up in each of these states, and then the effort to turn those folks out. I'm going to do a quick whip with all of you because I think it's funny that we started from this place of what these races have in common, which is that these state races have become highly nationalized. There are also idiosyncrasies to these states, specificities to these electorates. So, Natasha, I'm going to start with you talking about, you've been doing a lot of reporting out of Nevada. What do we need to uniquely understand about Nevada that outside of the national landscape is really shaping this election?
I think two things. One is Latinos and where they're going to vote. They're going to make up 1 in 5 voters these midterms. And if they end up really, tilting Laxalt's way as he is contending, that's really bad news for Cortez Master. There's a lot of Latinos who identify as Democrats, but who say they're staying home. So again, it's a turnout issue here. Number 2, economy. Nevada has been hit harder with inflation and gas prices.
Yeah, that is absolutely huge. And that you see things like housing affordability as a key economic motivator differently than some of the other ways that is teased out in polling. Neil, what do we need to know?
I think the big wild card right now is our very popular Republican governor, Chris Sununu. So if he's at the top of the ticket, how much is that going to affect people in the U.S. Senate and the U.S. Congress race here in New Hampshire? I think it will have a big effect.
Christopher, I got 30 seconds.
All right. I think one, unaffiliated voters, so not Democrat, not Republican, largest group of voters in the state of North Carolina. And two, recent history. You know that Peanuts cartoon where Lucy keeps pulling the football from Charlie Brown? A lot of Democrats look at our state and they think that Lucy and, looks a lot like the state of North Carolina.